The other thing I just probably want to touch on before we move on to our topics, George, is that there's a lot that's happened in our community. One of those is that a tourist has lost her life on Gari in the most tragic of circumstances, in that she was away from her family, living a beautiful life, enjoying her holiday, a 19-year-old Canadian backpacker who was in Australia for 6 weeks and has unfortunately lost her life in Gari, and you've had a lot to do with that. Did you want to give us a bit of an update on that?
Yeah. As you know, a young Piper, 19-year-old Canadian, lost her life sometime between 5 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. on Monday on 75 Mile Beach. The autopsy hasn't come back with a cause of death yet, and it is obviously a very distressing matter. And the factor of the dingoes obviously creates a lot of concern and anxiousness about what, if it is found to be dingoes, what will be the response. And I've, a lot of media have obviously contacted me about the situation. I've long been of the view that children shouldn't be camping there outside of the fenced areas, which it doesn't apply in this case because it wasn't a child that passed away. But more generally, I mean, we've seen over the last 5 years, I don't know, it'd be more than a classroom full of children under the age of eight who have been incidents which could have been fatal. It's been pretty continuous over 5 years of young people being attacked to the stage where I just think the state government should look at it a lot more seriously about whether or not children are allowed to camp outside of fenced areas. The official guidance is that children should be within an arm's length of their parents at all times. I mean, the parents have to be carrying a stick. That's, my fondest memories of childhood are camping, panning for gold with my father in the Canadian Rockies, not the Colorado Rockies. Camping should be about free and wild, and I just don't think that experience is right. There are so many better places to camp. It is such a risky thing there. I just think the state government really needs to look at whether or not children should still be camping on the beach. But again, we don't know if this was a dingo attack or not. They'll come out eventually what the actual cause of death was.
And it is a tragedy, but one thing, if you've gone and stayed in Gari, it's that there's safety in numbers. Even when you're swimming, that is the rips on that side of the island are fierce. Mm-hmm. The sharks are fiercer. I personally would never swim there. I know some people go waist deep. I wouldn't do that, and a lot of locals wouldn't do it either, but you certainly would go with a friend, because then if you get in trouble, you've got someone else who can call for help. And also walking on that beach with somebody else dealing with dingoes is much easier because you can respond together. Yeah. I just think it's a much safer way. And you're right in that point in relation to camping and safety. If we drew that context, if you were in Africa in an area where there was predatory animals, you wouldn't go and stay in their habitat without any precaution. In the same way that was in the wilderness in the US or Canada where there's wolves, you would take caution. These animals can kill, and they have, and those sorts of cautions should be taken. So I guess we acknowledge the loss of life both locally and nationally, particularly today.
Yeah, and I think about one of the other recent deaths. It's tragic. A young life is tragic to lose it like that. I mean, Piper this week. I mean, a few years ago, the 2 Japanese students in Lake Mackenzie. And that's the thing. Wilderness has risks. Dingoes are not the leading cause of death on Gari, Fraser Island. It's in fact vehicles being in rollovers. You have to go back 25 years for a death from dingoes. In that time, there's been death from a shark at Indian Head a few years ago, and there's 2 boys drowning and multiple deaths from vehicle rollovers.
I do point out too that when there was a spate of rollovers, the state government took action and made tag-along tours and made travelling in hire vehicles much safer. Perhaps they'll do the same with dingoes as well.